Hi everyone, it's Joey, and if you don't know me, I'm a paranormal investigator, explorer. I talk about spooky things and sometimes true crime. Today's video is going to be in a collaboration with Full Dark Paranormal Explorers, and we're going to tell the stories of the Villisca Axe Murder House. If you haven't seen my paranormal investigation there, I will link the video right here so you can go and see how it is for yourself. It is a very scary story. It's probably one of the scariest because it's so true to life. Anyway, I'm going to link Full Dark's link down below. So after my video, go click on their video. They're going to finish telling this scary, spooky story. And one I would not wish on anyone. Let's put out those positive vibes out there before I tell this tragic story. This story starts out in Villisca, Iowa, which is a very small town, extremely small town. I've been there. There may be just a couple of local shops. Let's take it back to 1912. You know, the year of the Titanic. Yeah, it's been that long since this case has happened. Back in the early 1900s, there was about 2,500 people that was populated in this town. But believe it or not, at this time, it was happening for a small town. it was happening. In 1912, there was a public armory built, just a bunch of military weapons, essentially. Basically, this obviously brought people in the area. You go anywhere in Iowa, you're not doing much. You know, this place seemed like a very calm area. You wouldn't expect anything crazy to happen here. If you grew up in a very family-oriented community where everyone was just nice, you greeted your neighbors, very safe feeling. Unfortunately for Villisca, this would no longer be the case. I'm going to tell you a little bit about the family that resided in Villisca. Josiah Moore was a businessman, and he lived in this little house in Villisca along with his wife Sarah Moore, who had 4 children: Herman, who was 11, Catherine, who was 10, Boyd, who was 7 years old, and Paul, who was 5 years old. They all lived in this little cute house. It's very small if you ever enter it. It looks bigger than what it is, but it's actually quite small. Josiah and his family decided to purchase this house in 1903. Also, I've shown people on this channel what this home is like. This house is only a 2-story house. Most of the rooms were upstairs, and there's only one guest room downstairs. On June 9th, 1912, the Moore family was deciding to go to church on a Sunday, like most people do, right? Also, it was pretty common for people to let their kids stay over, and the neighbors' children wanted to stay with the Moore family that day. 12-year-old Lena and Ina, who was 8 years old. They decided to go to church service, and they asked to spend the night with the Moore family because obviously they had 4 children of their own. So it was just a fun little unfortunate decision. So after a few hours at church, and they all decided it was time to go home and do what everybody else does, just relax or go to bed, you know. They say that the church was only a few blocks from their house, so I believe I saw the church they went to when I was in Villisca. It was only a few blocks. So along with the neighbors' children and the family, they all went to sleep in their rooms that night. Ina and Lena were downstairs in the guest room, and the rest of the family was upstairs. 4 of the children were in one room upstairs. The parents were in the first room you see going upstairs. On June 10th, 1912, the next day around 7 something in the morning, but a different neighbor usually notices the routine of the Moore family, and she noticed something was off. The Moore family, they were kind of early birds, and they were used to seeing them around, you know, whether it was outside or like open windows. You know, you notice when something is different from your neighbor's house. It's just, I think we're naturally nosy humans. And usually like Josiah was, you know, attending to things on the farm. It was very unusual. The neighbor said there was no noise. She could not see anything going on. It was eerie. It was eerily quiet. So the neighbor decided to go to the Moore's house and knock on the door and see if anyone was awake. Like, you know, you check up on your neighbors if you think something's happening. She was like, there was no answer at this door. Nobody was coming to open it. And then she went to the back of the house and she saw that the chickens hadn't been let out into the yard, and yeah, that was very unusual. And so she went ahead and let the chickens out into the yard. So the neighbor decided to call Josiah's brother Ross and alert him that something is off. And she's like, where is everybody? I don't know what's going on. It's super quiet. I had to let the livestock out, and you know, it's eerily quiet. And Ross was like, yeah, this is strange. This is unusual. Something has to be wrong. So around 8 o'clock in the morning, Ross decided to visit his brother and see what was going on. Deep breaths, because it's horrible. So when he decided to go to the house, the neighbor was there. They were looking for the key so they could get in and just see what was happening. Ross ended up finding the key and he opened up the front door and he walked in and everything was still quiet. He goes to the back bedroom and he sees 2 people covered in a sheet, and he saw blood as well. So after Ross sees it, he's distraught and he's running out of the house and he's telling the neighbor what he saw, which was a crime scene. And he was like, something terrible happened. Ross ends up calling Ed, who was an employer of Josiah because he was a businessman. So he told Ed and he says something terrible has happened, and Ed decides to come over to the house around 8:30 in the morning. Ross tells Ed that he cannot go inside. Like, obviously it was traumatizing to even know something horrible has happened. Ed decides to go into the house. Ed didn't stay in there very long. He comes out of the house and he says there's someone murdered in every bedroom. I mean, it is horrific. And he also thought he found the murder weapon as well, which was an axe. Hence, it's called the Villisca Axe Murder House. It was left in the downstairs bedroom where the neighbor's children were found, Ina and Lena, which, in my suspicion, the last room that the murderer had hit. Dr. J. Clark Cooper was the first medical person to arrive on the scene. He went to the first room and they saw an arm sticking out from underneath the sheets. There was obviously all kinds of body fluids all over the area, obviously. This is just terrible. And when he lifted it up to see who they were, it was Ina and Lena. But he couldn't recognize them because obviously with the axe, it was like one of those crazy murders where someone just couldn't stop. Not to mention, the oldest of the two was found in a position where they believe there was SA involved as well, which is quite horrible. By the axe was this like piece of bacon wrapped in a cloth, which was very bizarre. And the murderer apparently was looking through the drawers to find anything to cover the mirrors in the house. There was a plate of food at the kitchen table. There was a bowl of bloody water. There was like a bunch of weird stuff left by this murderer. All the victims in this house, which included all the children, the parents, the neighbors' children, there was a lot of blunt force to their heads. We're talking like 20 times at least. No one was recognizable at this scene. Whomever did this horrific crime, they were swinging this axe so hard that there are marks on the wall from him hitting them. That doesn't look like the back. It looks like the front of the axe.
If it was a double-edged axe, you know, the ones that have like...
If it was a double-edged axe, maybe. But I just don't understand how he could get that stuck like that.
Like if it was one like this.
There's like dripping down the wall.
If it was one like that,
yeah.
I think if he went back and accidentally just hit it into the wall.
Like, he had to have a lot of rage for that to happen, because I just can't, like, something that's heavy, he had to be pretty tough, and it looks like dripping on the wall. Like, do you see that?
Mm-hmm.
Is that from blood?
I don't know.
Like, painted over blood, maybe? That's bizarre, but... Like, literally, like, swinging. You have to be a psycho, like a straight up psycho, to do that. And there was a kerosene lamp at the end of Ina and Lena's room, at the parents' room. Those were also strange things that were found in the area. Also, one of Sarah's shoes were found on Josiah's side of the bed, which was laying on its side. It was oddly placed, and there was blood on the inside of the shoe. All the objects in odd places. It makes you wonder. It also was underneath the shoe as well, the blood. So, I don't know what the heck happened. There was no technology like there is today. This was 1912, like the Titanic sank, you know what I mean? Like, this was not like your ordinary stuff. The other odd thing was all of the doors were locked, and you obviously could only lock it up from the inside. So there wasn't any broken windows or broken doors, like no forced entry whatsoever, right? The theory is that this axe murderer was staying in the attic, which is a very popular area for paranormal investigators to go into.
Okay. More money.
Yeah, more money. Yeah.
Where do you want to fit?
I tried to conjure up this man, and I don't think there was any luck. However, I wanted to get answers because this is an unsolved mystery. All people could suspect really was the axe man snuck into the house while maybe they were at church, into the attic. It was easy to hide because once you open the attic door, it's a closet, and then there's another door in that closet that you have to open up. So it was easy to hide, and it was a storage room. Nobody would know if this man was hiding in the attic while these people were gone to church. Maybe they left a door open or unlocked while they went to church service. Who knows what happened? I'm going to leave the story at that so you can hear the town and what happens afterwards, the suspects and everything. And I will link down below Full Dark Explorers, and you guys can hear the rest of the story on their channel, how the public in Villisca reacted, how family friends kept reacting, and pretty much the mob scene that continues at their home. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the future.